Good evening, and thank you for joining me for this installment of our budget town halls for the 2026-27 Newfield Central School District budget development. And I'll say this a couple times during this uh, live stream that if you are on Facebook or YouTube and you have any questions, you can go ahead and put those questions right into the comment section of the video, and I'll actually be able to see those questions. So if you have questions as we go through tonight, feel free to put them in there. I might not get to them right away, but I will answer any questions as we go through. So I like to start on our website and just remind everybody that you can find our budget information right in the menu. It's the 2026-27 budget development link. So on this page of our website, you're going to find all the information regarding our budget development up to this point. I'm going to go down the left-hand side quickly just to show you. We've been going through this about since December. I believe this is our third or fourth town hall meeting. You can find all those recordings online. They're there to reference. So as we look through the schedule, we're through February or through March. It feels as if we're already through April as well. But I'm going to zoom in on this just to make it a little bigger. We are right here, square in between. We just had our last finance committee meeting yesterday where we reviewed the total budget. We talked about that at our board meeting. So what I'm going to show you tonight is a top level view of the budget overview. As we look forward, the 20th is when all nominating petitions for the school board are due in our office by 5 p.m. There are 3 open seats this year, 2 open seats due to a 3-year term being over. And then we did have Kevin Bergeron, who resigned last month, and he did that to make sure that the 3rd seat would be open and available for this budget vote. So we have 3 seats that are up for election, 2 seats that are 3-year terms, and then Kevin Bergeron's position is a 1-year term to finish his term. We have a board meeting next week on the 22nd, where the board will be looking to adopt the proposed budgets. We go into May when we have our budget hearing on the 5th, and we end with the budget vote on the 19th. So all that information is there. As usual, we have a breakdown by budget category for anything that you're looking to see. We have details of all the different budget categories available. And then at the bottom of the page, we have the recordings of the previous town halls that if you want to take a look at those, you can. So I'm going to jump right in. Our goal is always to keep these to about 30 minutes, and that is my goal for today. So the main part of our budget presentation you're going to find within this slide deck. All of the information we've gone through over the last 3 months can be found in this presentation. So working in reverse. So we're here, we're revenues, tax cap, in the total budget. In March, we went over instruction, general support in February transportation, employee benefits. All of these are linked. And you can jump to any of those sections and take a look at the discussion we were having at that time. But right now, we are talking about revenue, tax cap, total budget. If you've just joined us, I'm going to remind you, if you do have any questions during this presentation, go ahead and put them in the comment field of the video, and I'll get to them. So the first thing I wanted to review is how we get our tax cap. And generally, it is understood as a 2% tax cap. That's a little bit misleading because there are 3 main parts that go into figuring out what is the limit that the district can raise taxes with a simple majority at budget time. So that is 50% plus one vote to pass the budget. And that's our tax cap. So there are three sections: allowable growth factor, tax-based growth factor, and capital exclusions. The allowable growth factor can never be more than 2%. That's where the 2% tax cap comes in. And so this year, it is at 2%. And that goes along with inflation rates. So it's maxed out at 2. We can raise, that is the 2% we can do there. The other part, the next part, is the tax-based growth factor. And this is another thing we put into our tax cap. And it very simply represents the number of new beds in the district. Is your district growing? Now, we have a very small growth factor, but it is still positive. Then the third part is the capital exclusions. Those are things that the district is doing to improve the district that the taxpayers have agreed to. So those are the three main factors. And those three main factors produce our tax cap. And our tax cap this year is 3.175%. And I give this graphic over here just to represent the allowable growth factor is about $117,000 of that tax cap growth. The tax-based growth factor is around $112,000, and then there's a small portion for the tax cap. It's most importantly, it's not always 2%. And secondly, every school district's tax cap calculation is going to be different. There are no two tax caps that are alike out of the 700 school districts. So if we went to our tax cap, we would be able to generate around $240,000 in new taxes. With that said, what does that look like long-term for the district? And one of the things the Board of Education and the administration talk about every year is, do we go to the tax cap? Do we go under? And this graphic, we built it to represent that if we raise taxes 0% and we raise taxes 3.175%, that's a gap of $239,000. So the Board of Education, working with administration, can say, where do we want to land in that? And that is a discussion we've had this year. And I'll kind of get to where we're thinking, where the board has instructed us to go. But there's obviously, if you don't raise taxes as much, you're going to earn less money the following year. But what this graphic shows is that over time, it compounds. Because if you don't raise taxes, the tax cap in this year, you're going to lose some revenue, but then you lose that revenue again next year, and you lose it again the year after that. So while there's a spread of $239,000, by the end, by 4 years out, that spread has changed to $958,000. So there's always this balance between the short-term losses in revenue and how that can compound over time. So what the Board of Education has asked us to do is put together a budget. Our tax cap is 3.175. They've asked us to put together a budget with a 2.9% tax increase. So the budget we present next week for the Board of Education will have that represented at a 2.9%, which represents around a $20,000 difference between going to the cap and dropping that by that much. So that's what we're planning on doing. And so this next graphic shows the change in the average tax rate over time. And it's really important for a couple different reasons to look at what the average tax rate is for a school district. We have multiple townships within our school district. And the nice thing about Tompkins County is they all have the same tax rate, basically. So this is a true average. between all the different land and all the different house prices. This represents the average of what someone is going to pay in the Newfield Central School District per $1,000 of property value. Two things that are important about this graph. Number one, there was a significant drop in the average tax rate between 22-23 and 23-24. When I first saw that, I was like, whoa, what happened? That year, New York State fully funded the main source of school aid for all districts in New York State. It had not fully funded that portion, something called foundation aid, since the foundation aid formula went into effect. So the district had an influx of cash from state aid, which allowed them to drop the tax levy, which then produced a lower tax rate. So that's that big drop you can see right in here. The next thing that is important, and you can see that previous to that, the tax rate was hovering around $18 per thousand. And after that drop, it's been in the $15.50 range. That is a good thing that it was steady before the drop and steady after the drop. It's good because one thing that a district doesn't want to see, and it might seem positive at first, if we saw that average tax rate dropping over time, that's good for our taxpayers. And so the next part is the tough part, because what that means for a district is they are relying more and more heavily on other sources of revenue. And so what you'll see for districts that are more and more relying on state aid is that any changes in state aid can cause big problems for a district. So one of the things I've talked to the Board of Education about, and one of our goals, is just to remain steady. No big changes over time, because if we're remaining steady in our average tax rate, if we're remaining steady with the year-to-year tax increases, that allows everybody to plan a budget. So this is a good sign that it was steady before the drop. It's a good sign that it was steady after the drop. Our next slide. This is an average projection for increases on tax bills for next year. So let me break this slide down a little bit. We give you two values. We give you what is the projected rate on a $100,000 home, and what's the projected increase on a $210,000 assessed home. Why the two different values? Let me start with the 210. $210,000 is the average home value for the Newfield Central School District. So what the second column here is giving you is what the average taxpayer will see based on our projected tax increase. And we break it down into the three. Those individuals with enhanced star, basic star, and no star. So, in a home valued at $210,000, and the homeowners have basic star, their tax bill for Newfield Central School District would raise, this is the projection, $54 next year. That is $54 total for the school year. That's not per month, that is total. We also give you the $100,000 assessed home value, because then that allows you to, if your home is more than $200,000 in value, less than $210,000, it's a nice round multiple you can use. But the average taxpayer with enhanced star, we're projecting we'll see a $37 increase in their tax bill next year, basic star $54, and no star $63. So those are the averages. And we like to give you those. It's my belief and it's the board's belief, every single tax dollar is important. That we ask the taxpayers to give, but we like breaking it down this way so you can get an idea. These figures won't be perfect, but it's a general idea. Thank you, John Armstrong, for being one of our first comments. Anything we can do to show this and break this down a little bit easier for all of you, we're more than happy to do. So there you go with a projected tax impact. Next up, this is just another way of looking at our revenue for our projected budget, which is around $28 million for next year, $28.2 million. I really like this graphic because it's easy. And if you go to the website and get into this presentation, it is interactive. And it's just a way of showing how does our revenue break down by category. And you can see the biggest category of our revenue is from New York State. It is around 60% or $18 million out of our projected budget. That is our largest category. Our second largest category, real property tax, the taxes that we ask our residents to pay. And that is around $7.7 million. We come down, we have refunds. Those are usually BOCES refunds at $775,000. We have appropriated fund balance, which is the money we take that we have left over from one year to help pay for one-time costs in the following year. And then it goes down from there. I really like this graphic because it really shows we count every dollar down to the $50,000 we get in federal sources all the way up. But it does show, it's a good graphic to show that there are really two prime sources of revenue for the district, state aid and taxes. Next up, we do the same for the expenses. What are the categories we're spending the revenue on? And really, as we've talked about this budget over the last couple of months, there's the five main budget categories. There is general support, instruction, transportation, health and benefits, and then debt service. And so you can see from here, the biggest category of spending for the district is instruction. It makes sense. That is why we are here. We are here to educate students. If a school district's budget didn't have instruction as the largest spending category, then they would be doing something wrong. So that is around $13.7 million out of our $28 million go to instruction. Now, the next biggest category, we might think, okay, health insurance costs a lot, but overall, health insurance and the other benefits that we pay our employees and the retirement systems we have to pay in for our employees is the second largest category of our entire budget. So we go from around $13 million for instruction to about $6 million for health benefits. The third largest is our debt service, the money that we are paying for the projects we do for the district, the building projects. Go to general support next, which is everything that we need to run the district outside of instruction. So think maintenance, think administration, central office, and then our last category is our transportation for pupils. So that kind of gives you the general overview. And it's just more reassuring to show that we're doing what we're supposed to do with instruction being the largest cost. The next couple slides, what we try to do is talk about if the budget is increasing by, and it's right around 6.6% for next year, or $1.7 million. what are those increases and how do they break down? And it shows the proportion or the percentage of if we're raising the budget or the expenses by 6.6%. Well, out of that 6.6%, 4.4 is debt service. So debt service is increasing out of the $1.7 million, $1.1 million. That is the largest increase for next year's school budget. Now there's a note there. This increase in debt service is directly offset by an increase in state aid, which you'll see on the next slide. But if you take out debt service, we go from $1.7 million to around $600,000 increase, which is really, that is around that 2.2% year over year growth, which is a good target to be on. Where does that come in? We have $102,000 for employee benefits. That's health insurance increases, retirement contribution increases. We have around $155,000 for transportation. That is related to the increases, especially due to the most recent increases in driver rates that we put in place to attract new drivers. Instruction, we have around $192,000 increased. That goes for computer assisted instruction, contractual raises, and increased BOCES costs. And in general support, we have increased BOCES costs for communication services. We have really put a lot of focus on getting a solid equipment purchase long-term plan. So when we talk equipment, we are talking about our trucks, our snow sweepers, those big ticket items. So you can see how this breaks down into the major categories of spending. And I just want to highlight again that if we took the debt service increase out, we would be looking at about a 2.2% increase in the budget, which is a very manageable increase year over year. So if those are the increases in expenses, what's the other side of the equation? What are the revenues? So here you can see we have, going back to that slide about talking about the major categories of expenses, real property tax and state sources are the biggest two. And so you can see that we have around $1.79 million increase in state sources. This is transportation aid, BOCES aid, but most importantly, building aid. Now, what we're not showing in this slide, because if you started to do the math, you would say, okay, that state sources increased by 1.7 million, appropriated by 300,000, real property tax, 200,000. That's a lot more than the budget increase of $1.7 million. What we aren't showing in this slide is that we had revenue decreases in other categories. So if you added up all these increases, took away the decreases, that's how you get to the $1.7 million. So that's kind of the package of what we're looking at for budget increases and our revenue increases. And I do believe that would be the last slide of this presentation, this overview. So that's a really quick overview of where our budget stands today. We will be presenting the completed budget for approval at the next board meeting. We have more town halls coming up. We're planning on reaching out to community groups to see if they want us to do presentations, but this will not be the last budget presentation. We will have plenty of opportunities, whether that be in person or in virtual. We've got lots of opportunities coming up. I'm under my 30 minutes. I will stick around for a couple minutes to see if there's any questions, but I want to be respectful for everybody's time. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you have any last, to see if you have any questions, I'll stick around. Otherwise, have a fantastic night. Thanks.